This is also the perfect time to get inside of our Airtable and start creating a live base to demonstrate the different types of relationships and key Airtable taxonomy as well. On the left-hand side, you're going to have your different workspaces listed out. Right now, I have a whole bunch because of our consulting practice. In your scenario, you might have anywhere between 1 to 5, depending on how your Airtable is set up within your company. Generally speaking, I recommend our clients to have all of their company's information in just one workspace. If you have a really large company and you're already on enterprise plan, you can have a little more flexibility. Perhaps each team gets their own workspace to use. On the right-hand side, you will see different sections on my screen, and those are also the different workspaces. You can click into the bases inside of those workspaces. The bases are always going to have a little colored icon and a name right beside it. If you need to add a new base, you can click on the plus button to add a new base. This structure is very similar to how your computer will organize folders. So the workspace will be the folder, and your different databases are equivalent to a file. Next, we're going to create a new base. We should also go over the taxonomy inside of a base. At the top here, you can see your different tables. You can click on create an empty table, or you can import data from an existing spreadsheet using this import either a CSV file, a Google Sheet, or Excel spreadsheet. The tables and fields can all be renamed. Inside of Airtable, in each one of the tables, you will see different fields. For example, currently we have name, notes, attachments, and status. These 4 fields will always be created when you create a new table. I will also almost always delete them. They're almost never relevant, but that's what Airtable thinks you need all the time. On the left-hand side, you can click on the name of a view. And when you click on the view, you can see that you can create different types of views on the bottom. Right now, I'm on a free plan, so I don't have the ability to create all of the views, but just know that you can create different sections of views and also different views inside of a table. The views are really helpful because they allow your team to filter for different records and hide different fields so that everybody can make their own views and see the most relevant information. Inside all of your tables, you will also have rows of data. These rows are what Airtable calls records. So remember, the columns are fields and the rows are records. In our next step, we're going to establish the tables that we need. Earlier, we talked about the context of a school. So I'm going to create a teacher table, a classroom table, and a schedule table. We also talked earlier about how Airtable always creates 4 fields whenever you create a new table. They're name, notes, attachments, and status. In this scenario, I don't need any of those fields, so I'm going to delete all of them and add some sample data into my database. I just added 3 teachers, and I will do the same with classrooms. The second part of the setup is we're going to add a school table and a principal table as well. Now that my database is set up, we're ready to build some basic linking. The first relationship is going to be a one-to-one relationship between the principal and the school. When you create a linked field, that sets up a relationship between the 2 tables. When you create a linked field, you can click on the plus button to create a new field, and then click on Link to another record. Airtable is going to ask you which table you want to link to. In this case, we want to link the school to the principal because there's a one-to-one relationship between the school and principal. After you've created a linked field, you will see that on the school table, there's a new field called principal. And on the principal table, there's a linked field called school. Now you can attach principal 1 to school 1. The reverse will occur where on the principal table, school 1 now automatically has showed up beside principal 1's name. This is the beauty of a linked record. You can relate the different data types to each other. Inside of school 2, you can link school 2 and principal 2. And for school 3, you can link it to principal 3. You can see that each school only has one principal. That's what makes it a one-to-one relationship. When it's a one-to-one relationship, you can also customize your linked field to allow it to link to only one record. In this case, we can turn off the allow linking to multiple record toggle. I also noticed that I did not name our base yet. So I will call this 3 types of relationships. You can see right now that we have a principal table and a teacher table. Both of these tables contain data on individual people. Very often, what we recommend to clients is in the cases where you have multiple tables with contact information to actually combine them. So in this case, I'm going to rename our principal table as our people table. And in the future, that will house both principals and teachers. I want to distinguish principals and teachers based on their role in the school. So I'm actually going to add a new field called role. After I've done that, I'm also going to paste in my teacher data so I can get rid of one of the extra tables that I don't need anymore. I'm also going to add a few more teachers to make this data more realistic. Now I can see that I've got 3 principals and 6 teachers on my people table. And I'm also going to delete the teacher table. Another one-to-one relationship we can create is between the teacher and their homeroom classroom. I'm going to create a homeroom teacher column on the classroom table. We're also going to link this record to the people table. Now I can connect the teachers to their homeroom classrooms. Similar to earlier, after we connect our teachers to the classrooms, back on the people table, we'll also see the classrooms connected to the teachers. This is also a good opportunity to talk about field naming. Sometimes when you create fields, the names will be automatically created. However, that's not always the best name. In this case, we can be a little bit more precise by saying this is a homeroom classroom. The principle behind naming fields is always, if you're looking back at this database 6 months from now, are you going to remember what this name means? This is constantly a difficult thing, even for me, and I do this all day long. So be very thoughtful about how you name your fields so that you can remember them in the future. Next, we'll talk about our one-to-many relationships. In a one-to-many relationship, a school can have many different classrooms. So what we'll do is create another linked field. After this linked field is created, you can tie your different classrooms to the different schools. I'm going to tie all 3 of my classrooms to School 1. Of course, you can add additional classrooms on your classrooms table and then tie them to schools 2 and 3. So far, we've talked about one-to-one relationships and one-to-many relationships. Next, we'll talk about our many-to-many relationships. We talked about this example earlier in the context of creating a schedule for a school. In the case of a schedule, you're going to want to attach a teacher to a classroom. And I know we've been talking about multiple different schools here, but for the sake of this example, we're just going to focus on the school schedule at one school. We'll first build a linked field to the classroom table. Next, we'll build a linked field to the teacher. And finally, we'll create a new field called time. This is when the class is going to start. I'm going to add in the different schedule records now. We've added in 3 classrooms and just 1 teacher. This is because teacher number 1 is going to teach in classroom 1, 2, and 3 at different times of the day. I've also added in some additional data for teachers 2 and 3 because they will have their own schedules as well in the different classrooms. I've now added in times that teacher 2 and 3 are going to start teaching their classes. So now we can see a fairly comprehensive classroom and teacher schedule. You can see that I've purposefully left the first column blank. This is our primary field inside of Airtable. Every single table has a primary field inside of the first column. It's very important for this particular record to be unique. That means it cannot have the same name as any other record in that table. To get a unique value in the name column, I generally like to use a formula. We'll talk more about formulas later on in the implementation section, but this is a very important concept so that you can make sure all of your data is uniquely named. To create a formula field, you can customize the field type and select formula. The way I like to create this formula is by joining together different data values that are key to this record. For example, in our schedule, I'm going to join together the classroom, the teacher, and the time. You can see that I've typed in an ampersand, a quote, a space, a dash, another space, and a quote and another ampersand. This means I'm joining together different pieces of data. The ampersand is a formula to say to Airtable, join together the name of the classroom, then add a space, dash space in quotes, and then join together the name of the teacher. And that's what gets you two values together that make up a name. Something else you can do, if it's important to you, is to add in additional fields as well. In this case, you can also add in the start time if that's important to you. Now you have something that's uniquely named. You can play around with these names to find a formatting that you prefer and to find the right length of name. Sometimes when you're joining together too many fields, the name can get very long. So make sure you're picking the right pieces of data to create this record name. At this point, we've gone over how the three different types of relationships can look inside of a database. It's incredibly important to understand because, again, this provides the foundation of your database along with understanding your operations. I always like to think about building databases as if you're building a house. You would never build the bathroom inside of your garage, which is inside of your kitchen, which is inside of your bedroom. It's incredibly important to come up with a plan, understand your workflow, and also be able to translate that into an effective system for your team to use. Thanks for investing in your own knowledge base. I'm Cherry Yang, the founder of Claribase. We're going to be releasing our flagship course, Airtable Mastery, for free. In the course, you can find over 100 videos on topics like design, integration, automations, and interfaces. It's perfect for the Airtable champion who wants to build their database right the first time. You can sign up for the course at the link down below.